We are starting here, 10 o'clock, and Matt Beebe is recording it so that we can share it with other people who couldn't be here today. Some people work scheduled hours. I'm Katie Marie Hicks, and I'm a member of the Huron County Action Team. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming and for everyone who will be enjoying this recording. I want to thank everyone for participating in this expression of democracy. And I'd also like to thank State Representative Joe Miller for taking time to come out today and hopefully help us with some clarity on what's going on. And I want to thank Brenda Buchanan for moderating today. She's been an amazing help here in Huron County, out of Lorraine County. Now, Brenda has served her experience of over 40 years in the radio, and she is currently regional traffic supervisor at Odyssey. She has spent 8 years on the Columbia School Board, local school board, and serving 4 years as president, and also concurrently serving 4 years on the Joint Vocational School Board. We have passed out the agenda, and we'll go from here.
Hi, thank you for coming. As we introduced Joe Miller is a proud resident of Lorraine County. He graduated from Marion Steele High School in Amherst, went to LCC College for 2 years while working full-time, and then he went to BGSU to complete his Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education. He also received 2 graduate degrees from Ashland, a Master's of Education and a Master's of Arts degree in American History and Government. Before entering the General Assembly, Joe worked in public and private sectors. After a short time teaching and coaching in Texas, so you were a Friday Night Lights guy, huh? Joe returned to Ohio and joined a design building firm, becoming Associate Director of Planning. September 11th was a turning point that inspired Representative Miller to return to the classroom, teaching courses at both high school and college settings. Another facet of Joe's life is on the greens in the court. So it wasn't Friday Lights like you were coaching basketball. Sorry. Football.
I was coaching football.
Oh, you were? That's awesome. That's awesome. As a certified professional golf instructor and a basketball official, Representative Miller enjoys volunteering in his community and his church. Joe is a compassionate advocate for quality education, jobs, for opportunities in green energy expansion, and for assistance for our veterans. He understands the vital role schools have in inspiring our future leaders. He believes the state must implement fair and equitable school funding that enables the local stakeholders, school boards, teachers, and parents to have a say in their children's education. Throughout his first term as state representative, Joe has promoted investment in our children, in renewable energy, and innovating technology. On a personal note, I have seen Joe in action down in Columbus, and I will tell you that he is truly down there fighting for everyone, no matter what side of the fence you're on. So, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Brenda. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. So, wow. Thank you, Katie. Ms. Hicks, I appreciate the invite by you and the Huron County Dems. Good to be in the Veterans Pavilion here in Huron County. That is something that is not on my bio, but I'm very, very proud of. And I was having a side conversation before we started with Vern and just talking military. But so I grew up in a family, a working class family, and my mother was in the Marine Corps, and my dad, she did her time in the Marine Corps, came out. My dad did his time in the Army. My oldest brother did his time in the Marine Corps, and second oldest brother did his time in the Army, and then it was my turn. And Vern, you're gonna love this one. I was so proud because I thought I was gonna go in the Air Force. And so I came home and I was at dinner and I waited for my brother, my oldest brother, to arrive at home. And and because I wanted to share the news with somebody I looked up, and he, my oldest brother could do no wrong in my eyes. He was just so big brother Gene, right? And I'm like, I got great news. I'm gonna go in the Air Force. And of course, he just busts out laughing and says, "That's the Boy Scouts. That's not the military." And so I tell this, no disrespect, and I thank you for your time in the Air Force, but I tell this because we look up to people and we make decisions based on kind of their reaction and their guidance and my brother's leadership. I would follow him around, watch what he does, and so we need good people, not to dissuade us from going into the service. And I was so distraught. I mean, I honestly didn't want to disappoint him, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to work and I'll go to community college and figure it out. And so I never went in the service. I tried 2 more times to get in the Air Force, by the way, and they said, no, we don't have any officer positions open, nothing's going on. So great to be here. I thank all the veterans that here in Huron County that are part of this and that can be proud of this Veterans Pavilion. And with that, I know you have a bunch of questions. Currently, I'm state representative of District 53. My district is Lorain County. It was the west side of Lorain County, and then after redistricting, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th map. Eventually, when we landed on an unconstitutional map, the map that was chosen has me along the lake now. And regardless of that, I still put an emphasis on the agriculture community because I believe agriculture is a part of our national defense, just like the military is. We have to be able to feed ourselves to be free and independent from the rest of the world. So for me, I stuck with that, and I currently sit as ranking member of the Ohio House Agriculture Committee. So kind of like the team leader in ag for my caucus. So I guess we'll dive in, right?
Right. Well, since you brought up farming, nice segue there, as we say in radio. Ohio export markets are primarily soybeans. In 2022, that amounted to $2.8 million. Other plant and animal products combined contribute a similar amount. Do you see the loss of global exports and canceled government contracts like USAID as a significant issue for Ohio farmers?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a federal issue, but it impacts my constituents, your constituents, Huron County, Lorain County, and all 88 counties in Ohio. What happens at the federal government is truly tied to what we do at the state government. I mean, there is a symbiotic relationship in a federal system in which we live, where the federal government will appropriate and legislate down to the states, usually giving us some freedom to kind of maneuver within our own needs and put appropriations where they need to be when it comes to ag or anything else. What's going to happen is we're going to have less of a market. And, Chris Gibbs does a really good job, our new rural caucus chair for the ODP. He does a really good job of explaining it because he's a farmer and he gets it. And when we have discussions, listen, if you put putting tariffs, we're paying that. That just increases the prices. It doesn't increase the amount of money that our farmers are going to get for their beans or for their corn or whatever they're growing. It's the money that they have to add on top if they're bringing other supplemental grains or things in, especially for our small businesses that utilize those. So tariffs hurt us on the way in, and it also listen, you start firing up your trading partners, they're going to look elsewhere. They're going to look at Brazil, South America. They're going to go other places for their crops. And that's going to shut down our markets. And when we have a large supply and less demand, the price goes down, and that hurts our farmers.
Exactly. I know a lot of the soybean market has gone to Brazil, which has really hurt us. So while we're also talking about farming, I'm going to kind of switch to talking about food insecurity. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of local farmers were involved in providing food for food banks and local schools and creating income that way by giving local products to local businesses and food banks. Is there anything in the legislature locally, I mean statewide, that we can do to continue that? Even though we've had, with all these SNAP products, and can we make it can we make that local farming more available to the food banks?
So that comes in the form of our budget.
Okay.
So we have a biennium budget that we just passed that went into, it's being, I think, on July 1st. The governor did sign it this time by the constitutional deadline of June 30th. And budgets are choices. And budgets tell us and tell Ohioans where we want to put our money, and that says what we think is important. And they have removed large amounts of grants and money for food banks and other groups to actually purchase from local farmers to provide for those who are going to need assistance. And this isn't food that's for the homeless or food for those who are not just for those that are homeless, or just for those that are out of job or out of work and can't even afford any food. There are a lot of working poor who are getting supplements to hold them over until they can maybe get like in my household, we had 5 of us kids. So I noticed as my brothers went off to the military, all of a sudden I'm like, wow, we're not eating puffed rice and powdered milk for breakfast. We're actually getting like Cheerios and some of the good stuff, right? The sugar cereals, and and so those choices that we're making are not just hurting those who are in need, but also preventing our farmers from supplying those foods. And I know, talking to farmers, that they really, really feel good about themselves as farmers when they can contribute back to their community and getting their crops, getting their products to local markets, local food banks, local entities that support the food mission. It really bothers them. I mean, they don't just want to sell all the grain to China or somewhere else. Yes, it makes money, but it doesn't give them that good feeling of supporting local community efforts. And this is going to hurt us. It's really going to hurt those groups, and we're going to have less opportunity for that, for sure.
Yes. So when we're talking about the SNAP cuts too, and you talk about the budget as a choice, and does Ohio have the money to provide those services for the people who need them most, or are we just going to have to accept what happened at the federal level and hope for the best?
So there were some, that's a good question, there were some similarities in our budget in the state and the federal budget. And the similarities were, we are going to cut revenue to the government, which, okay, tax cuts can be helpful. But our budget here, and I don't want to get into the federal budget because that's not my lane, and although I pay attention to it, I want to talk state budget. And the state budget said we want to do less with less. And that would be fine if you're going to get it back to those who taxes take out a larger percentage of their disposable income. Our state budget cut taxes by flattening the tax for the wealthiest Ohioans, those who need it the least. And that tax cut and this budget helps 1 out of 5 Ohioans. I don't know about you, but 1 out of 5 Ohioans are not paying into the state budget. More like 4 out of 5 Ohioans are paying in some form or fashion into the state budget, whether it be through income taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, fees, other revenue sources. And that is just disgusting. That is a sad way of looking at taking care of all Ohioans. And that was the choice they made, to cut revenue for those who have the most of it so that they can remove supports for those who have the least. I'm a Catholic boy, spent 3 years in Catholic school. The nuns and the priests in my faith tells me that that is contrary to my beliefs. It's just not the Christian Catholic way to go about dealing with your brothers and sisters in society and in your community. And I just don't know what to say, but this is the mentality. This lack of empathy is starting to be very pervasive in federal, state, even local appropriations.
Yeah, there. So in the second, you just answered one of my questions.
Oh,
So, the tax rate changed from 3.5 reflects a $1 billion loss for Ohio's general fund. And exactly, Senator Serino said exactly what you said. Programs beside because Medicaid and SNAP include lead abatement, additional services and child care that will be cut. So, absolutely. You know, it's like you said, there's $1 billion right there a year, correct?
yes, that's just one of the billions
Right.
of dollars
And
that we cut.
Right, and then you take the $1 billion a year they spend on vouchers, okay? So, how do they expect to get anything done when they keep taking their income away? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
So what we're seeing is Ohioans want a particular level of, we call it services, but Ohioans want our state and our neighborhoods and our society to have a top-notch education, a excellent library system. We want high-paying jobs that are safe and that provide a dignity of work. We want a state that allows for the ladder, rungs in the ladder to continue to be there. As you work harder, and as you climb your way, and as you educate yourself, and as you build wealth, and you can continue to move up that ladder. That's not happening. I mean, you talked about 2 of the $1 billion giveaways. I can give you another one, the LLC. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the idea of starting a business. But this is under the guise of, we're going to give anybody who has an LLC that I believe the number's up to about $400,000, maybe more, I don't know what it's indexed to. They do not have to pay a single dollar of income tax up to that $400,000, because supposedly they'll take that money and they'll put people to work. But there's no guarantees and there is no oversight to make sure they're actually hiring more people by getting that tax cut. That's $1 billion. That's $1 billion giveaway to lawyers and lobbyists and those who are out there creating an LLC. And full disclosure, I have an LLC, but I can promise you it doesn't make probably more than $5 grand. It's just because I just don't have the time outside of this job to really put into the business venture that I was working with. So that's another giveaway. That's another choice that the state is making. We're going to hand $600 million of your money, not your tax money, because your tax money, honestly, is your contribution to a better society. No. I'm talking about your money that you may not know was left in your name by the state, or that the banks had a hold of when you moved, they didn't let you know. There are those unclaimed funds. And the state of Ohio said, so that we can give the rich people a tax cut, we're going to take that money because you must not really want it because you didn't know about it, so therefore you didn't go claim it, and we need it so we can pay for the Haslams to go ahead and get their stadium moved off the lake into Brook Park, where the services, the safety services, the law enforcement, the infrastructure, that is going to be a nightmare. They're going to do that, and as soon as that bill passed, they went and bought themselves a $25 million, another home, another location to go and hang out. So Did they need that money that bad?
No.
I don't know. Why are we giving away the farm and not having expectations of investment? And by the way, the numbers that the Haslam said they're gonna create in income tax and job wealth were based on 375. Or, yeah, 25 now? I gotta remember, because I don't get in the tax committee. But, and by the way, I don't make that much money, so I don't know what bracket that is. But that bracket has not been flattened to 275. So all those numbers that they promised on and that they said, here, this is why you need to give us $600 million, is not gonna happen. And by the way, the Huron County government is gonna go into a deficit. They're looking at $30 million worth of cuts because they have to plan for, you ready for this? They have to plan for the upkeep of 2 NBA and I believe what's the other facility down there, the Progressive.
Yeah.
So they have to upkeep those. The owners are not paying for that. And these owners are worth billions of dollars. So if you tell them a little frustrated at some of the nonsense, some of the decisions, like, we need to do better as a state. And right now, there are some very corrupt people that are in power that are rewarding those who cut checks for them. You know? And I'll leave it at that. So.
Yeah. So I'd like to swing back now, since we were talking about business and cuts, and not helping the people who need help. I want to talk about healthcare and Medicaid. 1 in 4 Ohioans qualify for Medicaid. Huron County has a slightly higher percentage, with some 14,000 residents who have health insurance through this federal program. This is a big deal. Ohio is facing an outsized impact from the federal Medicaid cuts due to our large rural population and qualifying Medicaid recipients. The issue is often, especially in your rural communities, your hospitals are your biggest employers. And actually in most of the state, like up in Cuyahoga County, Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals but they can survive this because they've got tons of money. But so the Medicaid cuts are gonna affect your rural hospitals. You're gonna lose jobs, you're gonna lose your rural hospitals. You're going to have people get sicker because they have no preventative care. Is there anything, and I know they're wasting all this money, is there anything that anybody down there is working on to help accommodate these changes on the cuts on Medicaid?
So that is probably one of the, I think, the most uncaring acts that I've seen in a while. There are people that actually work full-time, have a couple kids, and their income, because we don't seem to understand you have to pay a livable wage to really have the ability to pay for insurance, health, home, car, you go down the line. We can draw down money from the federal government, or we used to until this big beautiful bill came into play. And we used to be able to draw down Medicaid dollars for pennies, and I'm gonna say pennies on the dollar, but maybe 25 cents for every dollar we would. And that was set up because in our Constitution, both the federal Constitution, U.S. Constitution, and the state of Ohio's Constitution, the welfare of its people is in that preamble. That is a duty of government, to make sure that the welfare of the people is maintained. Doesn't mean to give them everything for free, support laziness. It's to help those in America that through the work ethic or the jobs or whatever they're doing, if they can't make it, to give them support. Healthcare has gone through the roof. Medicaid is a way to make sure that you get minimal services, healthcare services, regardless of whether you make $7 an hour or $27 an hour, if you qualify for it. Now, here's the rub of it, I guess, is that if you remove their health insurance and their Medicaid, the cost down the road, it's very short-sighted, the costs down the road are tenfold the investment of keeping people healthy and able to get back into the workforce, to making sure children are healthy and able to get to school and get educated and get a skill set and get into the workforce and be a contributing member of society. That pushes it back and prevents that, and it's such a shame. So we could do that in the budget. We chose not to. We chose to not draw down as much money. There's a lawsuit right now that DeWine is under, and so there's a lawsuit currently right now that is suing DeWine for not drawing down dollars that the congressional Congress of the last their last let's see at the federal level, I lost it. Congressional 2022 to 2024, they had appropriated money, heavy amounts of money, to take care of people who are still struggling. And so we decided not to, which is really a shame.
Right, because that was actually, and you don't like to say it like you're investing money back in, but again, this is one of your biggest employers, especially in your small communities, and it was a chance to put it there, take care of people, and they just chose not to do it.
And I'm glad you brought that back up. When you did answer that question, I failed as a student. I think I got a C on that answer now, coming from a former educator. What I failed to do is to say yes. In rural areas, like in Huron County and other areas, these hospitals fill their gaps in revenue to keep their nurses and their healthcare staff and their support staff full-time and paid. They need to get Medicaid patients and dollars in the system. That is a part of their business model revenue, not to stay in rural areas. If that goes away, and that's the sad, it's really the irony of it is, those in power are cutting money for their constituents at both the federal and local level. And it's going to hurt because those hospitals are going to pick up and move. You still have to be able to make their budgets. And Medicaid was a part of that.
So we've been talking about the cost of healthcare and Medicaid and food insecurity. So a trusted teacher at Firelands College asked former students in their 20s and 30s what concerns them most today, and their list included many of the things we talked about. The cost of college, the lack of resources and facilities, the lack of affordable housing, child care, and health care, the high cost and unreliability of internet services, which I know is a rural issue, the lack of job security so they can stay in Ohio, the difficulty of building a small business. So is there anything in the legislature now, or that they might be looking at to help these young people achieve their goals? Because I will tell you, I have two sons who are 27 and 32. The oldest one moved to Nashville because it was better opportunity. But I know, and many kids where I live, it's a small community, they want to stay here. They want to stay in Ohio. So is there anything that the legislature is doing to fix any of these problems to get them to stay and build their families here?
There are some things in the budget that are good. I'm not going to say that the budget's all bad. We fight very, very hard, my caucus does, to push back against massive cuts, which they like to do, massive shifts of appropriations to different areas that really truly aren't helping all Ohioans. But you've listed a lot of things there. You know, when I came out of college, quite a while ago, early 90s, Ohio was 5th in the nation for quality of schools on a variety of metrics added together. We have now had a race to the bottom, and we're in the 30s. Education is the chance to get out of your situation. Now, I guess if you're extremely wealthy, then it's just to keep you there, or to allow you to go play and live off the trust fund. But for most of us, it was the way out. And I told you about the working class, working poor, it felt like at times, situation I started in, but education was what allowed me to get out. And they're making it extremely difficult. to go to college and to pay off debt. Like, extremely expensive, and tuition is there to support the sports teams first and the students second. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot more people going to get a degree and going off to work in something other than football, baseball, basketball, and some of the major sports. So education has to be affordable. They have to have an opportunity for a job that's going to provide them a living wage. And what do I mean by living wage? I don't, we always shared former Senator Brown, who's now back on the ballot, which I love. He used to say the dignity of work, and he still does, and he still believes in that. Whether you're, digging in the dirt, or you are, in academia, or you're in business, there should be a dignity in work, and everyone should have an opportunity to make that livable wage. And what does that livable wage mean, Brenda? It means that you can pay for housing, that there's affordable housing out there. And even starting off in an apartment, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you see an apartment, I have a fairly nice home. It's a nice home for me, I love it, but in the realm of things, it's actually inexpensive. But my rent, or my rents, as we like to call them, and that being, your mortgage, your insurance and property tax and everything, is less than some people's 2 or 3 bedroom apartments. I mean, that's insane. And that is all supply and demand. And is the legislature putting in money and helping to support the investments in apartments or single-family homes, starter homes, retirement homes are starting to get there? No, they're not. They're building where you live and in other places, a development here in Huron County outside Norwalk that says, okay, you're gonna have a full acre and you're gonna have a $550,000 house. And by the way, I love golfing at Eagle Creek. I'm a huge golfer. Beautiful course. It's one of my favorite. I think it's one of the most pristine public courses in the area. So I come into Norwalk quite a bit. And my boy and I was playing with my boys, and we're talking like, what do you think that house costs on Eagle Creek? And it was just unbelievable for the size and what that cost was. And they're building more. They're building more around that golf course. Like, how does that help a new family, and somebody, a new starter come out of college and get a new job? How does that help them to be able to afford to start a home? It doesn't. We're not putting our focus. Budgets are intentional. Budgets are about priorities. Budgets are about what you care about. And the budget here in Ohio was the first budget, in years, that no Democrats voted for. It was that bad. It was the most egregious budget I have seen. And I've seen some bad ones. And I'm sad to say that I fought for different stuff and got some things into budgets that I still voted no against. Because overall, in general, the priorities were all messed up. And so our budget is a budget that is rewarding the extremely wealthy, that are punishing children and seniors and the working poor, and homeless. I mean, the funding has been reduced. And it's really disheartening, to say the least.
Yeah. How are we doing on time here?
It's 10:35.
Can we go a little more, or Joe, are you okay?
I'm here.
Okay.
I blocked off till noon, so I'm gonna walk around the park if we quit early. I'm gonna walk around the fair,
Somebody had a
walk through the
question.
park area and see different stuff and,
We had some questions.
Oh, we do have some
oh please, that
questions?
would be great.
Yeah, that would be
Well,
great.
I'm not the only one.
No.
Sounds like a song.
Sam Smith, right?
Did you, yeah, exactly. You can read it, Brenda.
Okay, I will read
You
it.
got the microphone.
I had one question that came in earlier, you couldn't be here, and they asked, you're not our representative, so why are you here?
That's an excellent question, and so I represent District 53 in this GA for the last time in the Ohio House. So I did not expect to be a state rep, and some labor people, some political people, some local people came to me and said, hey, in Ohio we have term limits. And our representative, the late, he passed away, the late Dan Ramos, passed away too early in life. But he termed out, and they said, you would make a good rep, you're a city councilman. I'm like, and that's all I want to be. Just loving taking care of my hometown and, you know, raise my kids and, you know, what have you. I had 2 hours back and forth to Columbus, or 4 total, not really something I want to do. So I took on this, and I even was leaving education at the time, and I asked in our contract that allowed us to give us a leave of absence, because I honestly thought I may come back. I may feel like I can't do anything. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough to be in state legislature. I'm going to be the dumbest kid in the room. I'm not. And then I went down there and I went, well, okay, I was wrong. That's not the case. And very quickly, you know, I was like, okay, those were false premises. And so I served all 8 years of the term limited House opportunity. And I had not disclosed yet exactly what I'm going to do next. My boys think I'm crazy for taking this paycheck, or as my youngest son said to me, and I shouldn't probably disclose this, but I'll do it anyway. Kids they say the darndest things, right? Remember that, you know? So he was probably he's 17 now. I think we would have been about 11. I first got in there and couldn't buy him that travel baseball bat. I'm like, hey, your mother and I were public servants, and you know, we can't do this. And my son looks me dead in the eye and he goes, I don't understand this. You're the most overeducated, underpaid person. Why would you do this? And I'm trying to instill in him this understanding that it's not all about money. But we live in a society where right now, currently, it seems like it's all about money. And I want to show him, like, you want to leave the world a better place. And I think in this role I can do that. And I'm trying in the minority party. It's very difficult. I think we could do more in the minority party if the margins were closer. Then we would have a lot more bipartisan discussion, and we would get the fringe elements on the left and the fringe elements on the right to have less role in policy making, and we would get more of a mainstream, I'm kind of a pragmatic realist. We would get more done instead of the nonsense, the culture wars, the crappy bills, you know, the bad, ugly bills that we're passing for budgets. And I think we could do much better for Ohio. And so I'll leave it at, I'm going to run for either 2 counties, 8 counties, or 88. I'm just trying to determine what that's going to look like. We're shaping up the top of our ticket. I am a very proud Democrat. And regardless of the narrative and the language and this is who Democrats are, and Democrats and socialists and communists, and I can go all down that list. What makes me proud to be a Democrat is that we believe in fighting for freedom for people. Everybody deserves to be free in their person. They deserve to be treated justly under the law and within their own communities, and they should have that opportunity to excel in and have every opportunity to live the American dream, no matter what zip code, what county, what job, what education, who they love, where they live, where they worship. That should have no bearing. We're all Americans. We just happen to be on 2 teams playing in a very competitive, it seems like, environment over who's going to have the ultimate say in your lives. And I believe that right now, although I may have some centrist views on some things, and I agree with my other side on some of their issues, there is a lack of respect and dignity and empathy for all citizens, and so there is no way that I would leave the Democratic Party or even think about not being a Democrat. So I'm trying to get the rest of that like-minded people in place to run across the state. I've still, trying to get the top of the team together. I don't have a whole lot saying that, but I have a little influence, and I would love to see a ticket that supports common sense legislation that once again protects freedom, justice, and opportunity here, not just in Huron County, Lorraine County, Ohio, but in America, because we're all Americans, and the Constitution and our founders has established that idea in the Declaration of Independence and really solidified it in our Constitution. So,
Thank you. Susie? Yes.
I know there's another question, I saw it coming.
Yeah. Okay, Susie was asking about women's, immigrants, and veterans' rights. And veterans is very appropriate because that's where we are in the pavilion.
So again, I think all citizens should be, their rights should be protected. But there are many citizens out there that are more vulnerable, and their rights can be infringed upon a lot more easily. And right now, we have to have cuts to the Veterans Administration. I don't know how patriotic that is, or how American that is. Our veterans should be taken care of first. And then the most vulnerable. I mean, what kind of society, what kind of first world society are we if we can't take care of our most vulnerable? And unfortunately, it's being pushed back onto this responsibility. It's being pushed back onto very individualistic, selfish people. Human nature is one that we're going to take care of ourselves first, and then our family, and then it's kind of that circle of influence expands out. We are shifting the burden in Ohio from the state collectively working together to improve upon the lives of Ohioans. And we're saying, if your community is wealthy, you get to have a good quality education. You get to have safety service forces that are top notch. You get to have parks and recreation. You get to have clean water. And I can go down that list. But if you're not, you're gonna have to make do with what you have. And I don't know about you, but that is a very egalitarian way of looking at things. It's not communist or socialist, I believe. I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe Jesus was a socialist. I don't know. But my Catholic faith says we walk hand in hand. We have it's universal love. It's universal support. It's helping those in most need. And our budget does not reflect that. Our priorities don't reflect that. It is a very mean-spirited bill. It's unempathetic, and it's not what we can be. And then listen, I have a lot of Republican friends who really, as they call themselves, and my brother-in-law in particular calls himself a compassionate conservative. Be smart, be efficient with the government, which I totally agree with, but be compassionate. Utilize the great resources of this county, state, and country to make sure that we truly show the world what a first world country looks like. And honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed right now. I'm embarrassed because America has lost its way. And we need to find Republicans and Democrats and independents that are willing to step up and respect your freedoms, respect the justice system, and not use lawfare and blame it on the other side, blame it on this side. No, stop using power to step on people. Let's use power to help lift people up. And let's support them as they go up the ladder of success here and try to make the American dream what it is for them. We're not doing that. Ohio's not doing that. We're failing. I'm doing everything I can to roundabout way. Hopefully, in some form or fashion, I will be there representing Huron County. I just don't know exactly in what capacity that will be. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to jump back because you both had several questions, so I'm going to jump back and forth. So Janet would like to know, we keep hearing about all the changes AI will make in jobs at the white and blue collar level. What is Ohio doing to help workers gain the skills they will need to be successful?
So I will give the former administration credit that they see the importance of high tech, artificial intelligence being a part of that, but really getting high tech skills in this classrooms. I have supported Republican initiatives to make sure that we have career tech brought back, and that career tech also leads you into a set of skills that will be ready for the next jobs of the future. I just got in last night about 11 o'clock. I arrived home from Las Vegas, and it wasn't to go play the slots or to hit the tables. It was to go to AI4, which is the largest artificial intelligence conference in North America. And I was one of 3 state legislators, 1 congressman. That's all I saw on the list of attendees, and I mean, I searched it. And that's all I saw in speaking. That, folks, it is so important that our legislature, our government understands how artificial intelligence is going to impact every single person's lives. It is Gutenberg's press, it is electricity, it is the internet, it is that all in one, and it's coming at the speed of light. They didn't think ChatGPT 5 was going to be out till 2030. It's 2025. Exponential growth. I mean, it gives me goosebumps, honestly, to think about how fast this is coming. And we have to be ready. But here's the thing. It's a tool. Amazingly powerful tool. It's going to cost us a lot of electricity and clean water. And it's probably going to do some negative damage in some areas, kind of like the internet now does, right? It brings bad people, bad decisions, bad things to our doorstep, to our homes. But also it has connected people to markets and economies and information and education that they never would have had access to. And think about, we have kids that are in Monroeville, going to Monroeville schools or South Central, or and I could go on, Willard, and they're taking courses that they never would have had a chance if it wasn't for the internet bringing that course to them. Business opportunities. How many people have small businesses? I was going past the Sandy, I saw the Sandy winery, and I'm like, oh, I may have to stop there, check it out. And they are now selling through the internet, right? They can take orders and have markets that they didn't have access to before. So the internet was a great thing and a great tool. The difference is the internet moves information, AI creates it. AI makes decisions. AI provides solutions. AI directs machines and people to make decisions in their lives. That's why this is so powerful. And I believe right now we need to do more. When I go back in the fall, I don't sit on the tech committee because I've got 5 committees, and I couldn't do the tech committee even though I put in for it because it aligned time-wise when the chair was going to have that committee meeting. I couldn't be on it. And so I'm going to go back though, and we're going to sit down and try to get a bipartisan AI committee, a bipartisan caucus together to look at this as not a Democratic thing or a Republican thing, but as a technology and a new social, economic change that is coming. And folks, I've got a bill on it, an AI bill on deep fakes. You could be getting information that you think is accurate. Do you remember, Brenda, when we were younger, like, I don't believe it until I hear it myself. I'll believe it when I see it. Folks, you're not going to know the difference between my voice and a AI agent's voice. And I was at that and the exhibits shows, and they can clone my voice to where you wouldn't know the difference. And they can make that voice say stuff that I wouldn't normally say. And I have a Marine for a mother who She knew how to throw down some F-bombs and some words. My dad doesn't believe that, but I heard it. And I mean, you would be surprised what technology can do. And they can take pictures. They can take full pictures and create a picture of, look at State Rep Joe Miller coming out of the burning house, carrying the baby with the dog and tail, you know, here we go, saving the world. Might as well put a cape on my back while I'm at it, right? And they can make that out there, or they could make it be that I'm doing something nefarious or illegal or immoral or unethical, or you fill in the blank, and then they could put that out there. What are you going to believe? Is it real? How do we know? So how do you make a decision over your lives when it comes to voting for people to take the powers that you're handing over and make decisions over you? How do you decide, is that a good person? Is Joe Miller a good person? Is Brenda a good person? Is Julie a good person? Would they be somebody you'd want to hand your freedoms and your power and your tax money over to? You're never going to know with AI right now. The technology is so powerful right now.
Yeah, and it's very invasive. One day
It
I
is.
work on typing up
Privacy.
an email, and it's like, did you mean to say this? And I'm like, no. So
Siri.
yeah,
Hey Siri, right?
yeah, hey Siri, yeah. Okay, we got another question.
Sure.
I don't think you can read my writing.
Okay, let's see, I'm gonna try. Biden's infrastructure bill.
What happened?
There's nothing taken away from us.
Are they gonna take that away from us? Is that what you wanted to know?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If I understand correctly, the question is, under Biden's presidency and the congressional leadership, they had appropriated money for infrastructure. I mean, in large amounts of money. We are not as old as Europe or other countries, but we are an aging infrastructure, especially here in Ohio. And so this infrastructure bill was supposed to bring our bridges up to par, up to snuff, safe, to help with infrastructure to expand and to grow the economy. And so that was there. The money has been pulled back, some of it, that hasn't been spent. There are projects that were started, they're not going to be continued and finished funded, which is really disheartening, because then we're going to see an eyesore, right? And that's not good. And we're going to see an unfinished project. That's a problem. I don't know if we'll get something back, but the idea is, unless it's going in the pockets of millionaires right now, unless the infrastructure is a new addition to their McMansion, I doubt we're going to see any more money coming to Ohio, to other states from the federal government in the way of infrastructure. And you know how it is. If it's got Obama's name or Bush's name or Biden's name or Trump's name on it, it's all bad. You know, and it's unfortunate.
The second question is, they did away with the clean water bill. What's Ohio going to do to keep Lake Erie from getting polluted as it is?
So another reason I didn't vote for this bill, and I said earlier, the question was, what are we doing to make sure we continue to keep Lake Erie and other waterways clean? Sitting on the Ag Committee, one of the biggest things that the governor brought in, and I was like, all right, I can get behind this. Like, this is a good bipartisan effort. And that was H2 Ohio. And that was helping farmers invest in processes, procedures, land, whatever it took to make sure that fertilizer runoff doesn't get into the streams, then into the lake. And to work on different engineering efforts around waterways that come in, and then we have invasive species efforts and a lot of stuff like that. Again, this budget prioritized the Brown Stadium, Cincinnati professional sports upgrades, tax cuts for the top 20%. It's actually higher than that, but I'm going to be conservative here. About 20% of the state will see some sort of gain from that, but it's all at the top. We chose that, and we cut Governor DeWine's initiative to keep H2 Ohio money coming in. That makes absolutely no sense. You know, so many of those that represent farmers and represent our clean waterways, they voted against their own interests of their constituents. And that is because we have a gerrymandered system that has put in a set of legislators that do not have to be held accountable by their representatives, because they're not gonna lose power. So really what you've got now is not legislators that are supporting you. You have a party apparatus. And in Democratic states, it's a Democratic apparatus. Still bad. Still bad. That doesn't allow representatives to truly take care of their districts. Right now in Ohio, the Republicans have the majority, and I'm talking super majority, and they know that they can squash whoever pushes back in their party. And they will. But they can't squash the other party like they can within their own. Because what they'll do within their own party is they'll give them a chance to walk away or take a walk when it's time for a vote or vote against the bill unless they're needed. I've seen that happen countless times in Lorraine and Huron County where representatives would take a walk or senators would take a walk or hide behind a no vote because they already had enough votes, and then turn around and vote for it in the budget at the end and say, well, it's got good stuff in it anywhere, or I needed to get my constituent efforts in here, and I had to go ahead and vote for a bill that harmed so many more people, but at least I got something for what I came down here for personally or professionally or for a particular area. And that's not how it should be. I mean, it should not be controlled by the party apparatus in such a way. That's why you need bipartisan efforts and a more closely aligned centrist view. Right? Good initiative that the Republicans put out there, Dem's gonna get behind. Good initiative Democrats put, but you can't have that right now currently in Ohio.
Yeah, so Janet, did that answer your question about what Democrats can do to influence what's happening with redistricting?
No, because there's another process starting.
Oh, what do you want to talk?
Yes.
The congressional?
So we're gonna have to. So they're gonna read. I saw the maps. I don't know if you've seen any of them, and they're atrocious. They right now have it down to 2. They figured out how to get it to 2 congressional seats. When Republicans win on average between 52 and 54 points on average statewide, 52, 54 is at 48, 46. They have decided that at the federal level, that out of 13, that the 48% should be represented by 2 people, while the 52% should be represented by 11. And there lies the problem. People and democracy cannot survive when your vote does not matter anymore because it's been gerrymandered and it has been made less valuable through the process. And so it's going to be a very expensive. I think we have to do it again. I think people realize that they got bamboozled, that LaRose pulled the wool over their eyes, confused them, said, hey, this bill's really, really bad, messed up the language, and did it in such a way so that people would be like, you know what? I'm getting all these different conflicting views, and so when I'm not sure, I'm going to vote no. So watch how they word it, whether it's a yes or no vote. If the Republicans want it, right? If the Republicans want it, something to happen usually, they're going to get it in a situation where it's a no. Because they can be like, see, it's the no, it's easier to say no than it is to say yes if you don't understand the situation. And that's what they were doing. And so we right now need to go back on that effort. It's a long process. Karl Rove spent 20 years getting us into this position where we moved so far away from a democratic republic that it's going to take a long time to get back. But I'm going to continue to fight as long as I can to do that. So we will not agree to the maps. I can tell you right now that they're not going to hand us a fair map, or even a map that gets closer. So we'll be a no, and then they'll pick the map that they want, and they'll get it through the majority, and they'll take it until 2030. And in 2030, after the new census, I can't believe I'm thinking that we just went through the 2020 census. In 2030, it'll really be, we need to have rules, fair play in place so that Ohioans get their vote back, get their voice back. And they're not right now, they're not getting that. You're getting the power party in control and in power. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, you know?
So I'm gonna leave that, this is that. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, we're getting ready to close shop, so very good.
I'm sorry, I'm not even paying attention, I'm thinking of the next question. This is my first moderator job, so,
Oh, no worries, no worries.
you know, please everybody rate me on Yelp as a 5. I appreciate your time, Joe.
Thank everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for letting me be here.
Joe's gonna be walking around the fair, getting more grounded with our energy here. We do appreciate your coming. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I know it's early in the morning and fair hasn't really gotten going, but at least we get a chance for people to be able to kind of hear what's going on. And if you have any questions, I'll come on down and we can talk more.